Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining another week of Cruel Justice Empowered by Witness Innocence, hosted by yours truly, Herman Lindsey. For those that don't know me, my name is Herman Lindsey. I'm Florida's 23rd Death Row exoneree. I'm from Pompano Beach, Florida, near Fort Lauderdale, the same place I got falsely and wrongfully accused. Yeah, I was crazy enough to stay, but it's home. I love being around my kids, my grandkids, so I'm not finna run, you know. Uh, so I'm just home. But today I decided to do the show by myself. I was going to talk about a couple of things, especially some of the things that I'm going through as an exoneree, and some of the programs out there that really helpful and some that's not. But before I start my show, I want to reflect on the event that's coming up by the Missourians Alternatives for the Death Penalty organization up in Missouri. Up on my screen is a flyer. They putting together this nice little event, and this event is extremely important. We are putting their website in the chat so that people can go on and learn more about what I'm about to talk about. The website is madpmo.org. And I want to thank Michelle Smith, who is the racial justice coordinator at Missouri for Alternatives for the Death Penalty, for supplying me with the information that I'm able to talk about today. There's two cases going on in Missouri, and it's crazy. We're up here now in the modern times, and so many people are supportive of ending the death penalty, but we have certain politics that remains to feel that this is the way to give justice for the victim and their families, and half the families don't even want the death penalty. But to me, it's a way of getting elected by those that is intimidated by what is placed in the media, those that fear for their life for no reason at all, and they feel like the death penalty threat is protecting them, which the death penalty have proven not to be a deterrent to crime. It actually, in the states that has the death penalty, has the worst crimes rate than the ones that don't have the death penalty. Because you think about it, people out there in the streets, half of them don't even know what the death penalty is. You can't even tell you when they executed anyone or what cases of a person that's on death row until they're actually behind bars facing death penalty. I know for me, I didn't know anything about it. And I was young. I heard about an execution, but I didn't really quite understand that. But the biggest problem we have is those that on death row that shouldn't be on death row. For instance, an innocent claim, or those with intellectual disabilities, such as one of the cases we're going to talk about today. Ernest Jones, let me go up some because I'm reading some of the Ernest Jones was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder in 1994, death of Mary Mabel Struggs and Fred Jones, 3 employees of a KC convenience store in Columbia, Missouri. In the past 26 years of appeal, courts have upheld his conviction, but overturned the death sentence and granted new penalty phase due to errors in presentation of evidence about Johnson intellectual development disability. In 2002, the U.S. Supreme Court decided in Atkins, Virginia, holding that the Eighth Amendment prohibits the execution of people of intellectual disability. Well, our high courts ruling is supposed to be the rule. And this is one of the biggest problems with our justice system is that here we are, one courts, our high court, the most top court in the United States can say one thing and say, no, this is unconstitutional. But here it is in individual states, their Supreme Court may say, no, we can't do this. And then the district court say, the appeal court said we can't do this. And then, it's on and on, where it shows so much divisions in ruling. Now, all across the board, it has been said that, a person with a disability, intellectual disability, a low IQ, and with evidence, any type of evidence that's there, you're supposed to get, you don't supposed to get death. In this case, following the Eckers ruling in 2002, a judge threw out the death sentence and ordered the third penalty phase on Ernest, for Ernest Johnson. And the thing about it, it had errors in the jury instructions. Yeah, error in representation of the evidence about his IDD, and errors made by the state's expert and prosecutors, which rely on a racial stereotype and stereotype of people with disabilities. Now, Missouri is there fighting for clemency for Mr. Johnson, and they really need help out there to actually get this done. It's going to have to take great support to reach up into those capitals and getting the governor and legislators on board to seeing justice instead of seeing what is best for them to do for re-election. Because if they feel like helping Mr. Johnson will get them re-elected, they'll get aboard. And then some, feel like, it won't help him get elected. It help him get elected if they keep him in there. So, it's crazy. The second case, out of Missouri, just one second. Is Marcellus Williams. Marcellus Williams was convicted in August 11, 1998, robbery and murder of a 42-year-old Felicia Gale in her St. Louis home. His execution date was set by the Missouri Florida Supreme Court for Tuesday, August 22nd. In this case here, it's odd for me because here it is, the courts granted and allowed an order to allow DNA testing in this case. When they did the DNA testing, there was no his DNA on the knife, or fingernail clippings of blood, skin tissue, hair samples were all tested, and nothing matches this guy. Now, all of this stuff they got in his case that held DNA, nothing matches this guy. So here we are, looking at a case that clearly say it's a killer out there, but they holding an innocent man in there. And that's the second prong of this this issue of fighting the death penalty. The people that's actually being affected by, he's sitting in jail. I mean, here it is. It's 2021. They're trying to set an execution for him, and you have evidence to say that, hold on, if this DNA don't match him, then who do it match? And this is the murder weapon. This is, things taken off the scene of the crime. And you mean to tell me nothing that matches his, and you still have him in prison on death row? What is the circumstances behind that? Why is this happening to us here in America? You know, I understand how they talk about China, how strict China is and with their executions, and other countries that they just fire you and you know justice. But here, our forefathers sought for a plan for justice. They sought down a system for justice. And all we have to do is just follow that system, and we can make a great justice system. The problem coming in that is that just like these young men, you know, some was raised uh, poor and they are being judged. Then you got people that's raised being rich and they're being like praised, like a slap on the wrist, you know, and the minorities are suffering greatly by a justice system, which should be equal justice for all. And that's the craziest thing about the craziest thing around is that for a person like me that's been there and placed on death row for something I didn't do, I understand the pain. I understand the pain. I mean, some people, everyone in this world has been falsely accused of something. And sometimes when they was falsely accused, they didn't like it. They didn't like it. So they turned around and they maybe it was on punishment. Maybe couldn't go to a dance. Maybe couldn't talk to on the telephone, and it bothered them. So imagine how being placed on death row and then looking at all these other people on death row going through this for years and years and years of appeals and litigations, and the courts just denying them and then setting execution dates. And then here it is, look at it, it's taking 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years for people that actually been innocent to be free. The state just took their life anyway. For me, I'm living a life sentence. But I get back to that. But what I want to do, I want everybody that's paying attention to this is to actually get on this website. They have a petition, you know, and they're trying to build or organize support for these two gentlemen, which is in badly need of it. And I ask that people go to Missourians Alternatives for the Death Penalty website, which is madpmo.org. That is madpmo.org. And I ask you to join and sign the petition because this type of support is badly needed. Suppose something like this happened to you or one of your loved ones, and you needed people to rally up and help you. Well, I have a saying, you know, when people ask me, how can you be so forgiving? I say, how can I ask God to forgive me if I can't forgive others? And that's a strong saying. So how can you ask people to support you when you don't want to support nobody else? I understand people say, well, this is not my fight. This is not my business. But don't wait until it's become your business to join organizations and being a part of this movement. Criminal justice is badly need of reform. And you see some of this every day in your lives and you do nothing about it. But even if you sign up for, you know, we're not asking you to get and walk down the street and hold signs up and things like that. We're asking you to sign up for the newsletter. Like here at Witness the Innocent, we have a newsletter that updates you with information. You know, you got the death penalty centers that update you with information. Sign up for the newsletters. And when you see petitions coming out where people actually need these signatures to reach a certain goal, to get uh, a review of case, or, you know, get somebody clemency, you know, you really need to take a part of that. So we're not asking much of that, you know, and we ask at times for donations, you know, because we're a nonprofit, and that we, you know, have programs that help exonerees. And let me explain to you why. Witness the Innocent is based off death row exonerees across the United States. Our chairman of the board is a death row exoneree. Our secretary of the board, which is me, is a death row exoneree. Our executive director is a death row exoneree. And if you was to visit our organization and see our organization, you'll be amazed at the work that we do and how great we hold up, because we take pride to showing people that even though we was wrongfully convicted, we're not animals. We're not the people that they put on the death rows saying death row is for the worst of the worst. None of us is the worst of the worst, but we've been there. We've been sitting there, and some of us have had the moment of execution. For instance, a good friend of mine, Derek Jameson, out of Ohio, was actually strapped to the gurney before they did his state. You know how traumatizing that is, to think that here's your last minutes, And then because of that state, he found out he wasn't the person that committed the crime. Some people was blessed to be exonerated. We are blessed. But then we have lost a lot of them that did not get blessed, but was innocent. To say that we never killed the innocent man, evidence is coming up now that's showing that we have, especially Texas. Texas have one over there now, which I think is Lee Smith, I think his name is, don't quote me on that. He was executed, and now it's coming to find out that the DEA don't match it. And other evidence coming out to show that he wasn't the one. You know, we even had Todd Whittingham back in, I think, 2012, brownish, between 2010 and 2015, Todd Whittingham case in Texas, where they said he burned up all his family. And come to find out, the fire was actually started by a faulty electric. These are the problems that happen when dealing with the death penalty. You know, and not only the death penalty, if you look at regular cases, it's still the same. You know, we have a lot of people being exonerated from regular population, general cases, well, say non-capital cases. And we have prison systems that's full of people. A lot of them been railroaded. A lot of them been tossed in the pen and detached from the world. And a lot of them shouldn't be there. And this brings so much pain because, you know, I'm out here in this world and I'm trying to fight. And luckily, the last couple of days, I found something to bring me out of the slump I was in. And every time I look at it, it makes me smile every day. And I begin to see things in a different way. You know, before I used to have to keep myself busy and do speaking events. And if I'm not doing the speaking events, I go into depression. I have to do something with my life. And when I'm not speaking, you know, financially, I live the poor man life. So, you know, but I'm thankful for the life I have, believe it or not, because at least I have organizations such as Witness to Innocence and FADP, Equal Justice USA on my team, represent justice. And, sometimes I can get help from them uh, to pay my bills and things like that. And Witness to Innocence has an emergency fund that you can apply for in case your lights out, you're behind on your rent, something that's um, very, life threatening. Well, not life threatening, but very much needed in life, and I thank God for that because, you know, I suffer from short-term memory loss. I can read things that I can understand it, but I tend to forget it. So I could read a case today and I won't remember that case next week, but I remember something about it, and I also have problems with sleeping at night. I also have problems with sleeping at night. Um, is it's like when I'm in that cell, sometimes I have to actually dream myself asleep or think of something else. I beat myself up a lot. I used to beat myself up a lot, because things that happened to me, I feel like I don't want to go back to prison. I don't want to go back to jail. So I have to suffer and just take what people does to me sometimes and live on. I go through a real hardship. But the most hurtful thing about being exonerated is now here I am, I'm out. I'm not holding no grudges. I'm not holding no bitterness, no anger, or anything like that. I just want to live a normal life, married, having kids, live in a nice home. It don't have to be a big mansion. It's just a home, and grow old, visit places, things like that. I might have been reading too many books when I love stories when I was young, young in the chain gang and death row. But that's all I wanted in life. But it's so difficult to get what I want. I educated myself, went to school and got a bachelor's degree. I went and got a private investigator certification, mitigation certification, so I can help with death penalty cases. But yeah, I can't even get my license because my rights has not been restored. And I've been home over 11 years now, and my rights not been restored. Then when I tried to rent a place or anything like that that requires a background, the background still follow you. Why is it that a crime can carry 5 years and 10, 15 years later, that same crime can affect you getting a job? That same crime, there's no way of really rehabilitating yourself in society with obstacles like that. If I hadn't have witness innocent, I didn't have a strong mind. I'm being honest. I would have been in the street selling drugs again, doing something I need to do to feed my family and my. I want everybody to understand that in this world, God don't put us through more than we can bear. But a lot of times we put ourselves through that, what more than what we can bear by our decisions we make. And we stay in situations feeling like that's all we can do, but that's not all we can do. And just like we're slowly moving across the United States, making the death penalty obsolete in some states soon, hopefully we will have all the states where we can say United States do not have the death penalty. We won't be creating trauma of wrongfully convicting people and having them to go through the trauma of actually thinking they're gonna die for something they didn't do. And I'm gonna leave y'all with that thought. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And I hope this video reaches someone and someone will join us and sign up for our newsletter. Someone will join us and let us know that they're on our team now. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. And don't forget to go to witnessinnocent.org and sign up. Thank you for joining us.